The early morning light filtered through the dusty windows of the veiled Tome Bookshop, casting long, delicate shadows across the rows of antique books. For over 3 decades, the bookshop had been a haven for collectors of rare manuscripts and arcane texts, a hidden gem known only to the most discerning bibliophiles. Today, however, it would become the stage for something far more extraordinary. Charlie Daniels, the shop's longtime owner, was behind the counter, flipping through an obscure volume on Tibetan esotericism when the bell above the door chimed. He glanced up, his keen eyes sharpening at the sight of the man entering. He was a familiar figure, with his sharp, angular features and air of quiet confidence, an antiquarian dealer named Julian Masters, whose reputation for tracking down the world's rarest books was second to none. Julian approached the counter, a knowing smile on his face. "Charlie, I've got a riddle for you." Charlie raised an eyebrow. "I'm all ears, Julian. What's the mystery this time?" Julian leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "Have you ever heard of Shivoham, the Book of the Second Death?" Charlie's expression darkened. He'd heard the name whispered among a select few in the rare book world, but details were scarce. It was supposedly written in the 17th century in India, a sacred text focusing on a secret yogic practice that allowed one to experience death consciously without succumbing to its permanent embrace. The book was said to reveal the mysteries of what lay beyond death, a path to higher states of consciousness. But most critically, it was believed to contain instructions on how to traverse the afterlife and return unharmed with the knowledge of what awaits beyond. "A legend," Charlie said cautiously, "the kind of thing that leads collectors to ruin." "Not a legend," Julian countered, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "It's real, and there's only one copy in existence." Charlie folded his arms, leaning back in his chair. "So I've heard. The problem is, no one knows where it is." Julian's grin widened. "Correction, no one knew where it is. I've traced it to an obscure Tibetan monastery, somewhere in the Himalayas." Charlie whistled softly. "A monastery, huh? But which one?" "That's the challenge," Julian said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There are hundreds of monasteries in those mountains, many of them remote and isolated, but I've narrowed it down to 3 possible locations." Charlie's eyes narrowed. "You're not the only one looking, are you?" Julian sighed, rubbing his chin. "No, there are 2 others. Eleanor Price, a British dealer with deep connections in Asian manuscripts, and Rajan Singh, a former scholar turned treasure hunter. Both are as determined as I am to find this book, but they don't know what I know." "And that is?" Julian paused, glancing around the shop to make sure they were alone. "The book isn't just valuable because it's rare. It's valuable because it's dangerous. According to my sources, those who've come too close to the truth contained within it have either disappeared or gone mad. And Singh, he doesn't care about that. He's ruthless. He'll do anything to get it." A moment of silence passed between them, the weight of the conversation settling in. Then Charlie spoke. "So, you need my help?" Julian nodded. "You've got contacts I don't, Charlie, and more importantly, I trust you. This isn't just about money or prestige. It's about something far bigger. If that book gets into the wrong hands..." Charlie's mind raced. The prospect of finding such a powerful secret text intrigued him. But the danger was equally clear. He rubbed his temples, considering his options. Then he looked Julian dead in the eye. "All right," he said. "I'm in." but we do this my way." The following week, they had reached Nepal, sitting in a small cafe in Kathmandu, waiting for their contact. It had taken days of planning and a few discreet bribes to the right officials, but they were closer now. As Charlie sipped his tea, he glanced out the window at the bustling streets. His mind drifted to the mountains beyond, their towering peaks lost in the clouds. Julian was tapping his fingers anxiously on the table, clearly impatient. "He's late," he muttered. "He'll show," Charlie said calmly, though he too felt the tension rising. Their contact, a local fixer named Dorje, had promised to lead them to the first of the 3 monasteries they suspected housed Shivoham, but so far there had been no sign of him. Just as Charlie was about to suggest they move, the door swung open, and a man in a worn leather jacket slipped inside. Dorje was lean and wiry with sharp, intelligent eyes. He moved quickly, seating himself at their table without a word of greeting. "The monastery you're looking for is called Rongbuk," Dorje said, his voice low and gravelly. "It's old, very old, and few outsiders have ever been allowed in. But there's a complication." Charlie exchanged a glance with Julian. "What kind of complication?" Dorje leaned forward, his expression serious. "You're not the only ones on this trail. The woman, the British one, Eleanor Price, she's already on her way. And Singh, well, he's been making inquiries too. It's only a matter of time before you all converge on the same place." Julian cursed under his breath. "Then we need to move faster." Dorje shook his head. "Speed isn't the issue. Getting inside the monastery is. The monks are wary of strangers, especially those seeking forbidden knowledge. You'll need to prove yourselves if you want access." "Prove ourselves how?" Charlie asked. Dorje smiled faintly. "By demonstrating that you're worthy. This isn't just a quest for a book. It's a spiritual journey. The monks will test your intentions." Charlie nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about finding a rare artifact anymore. It was about earning the right to possess it. "We're ready," Charlie said, though he wasn't sure if that was entirely true. The journey to Rongbuk was grueling. They traveled for days through rugged terrain, ascending steep, narrow paths that wound through the mountains. The higher they climbed, the thinner the air became, and the more isolated they felt. There were moments when Charlie wondered if they were on a fool's errand, chasing a myth through the snow-covered wilderness. But finally, they arrived. Rongbuk Monastery was perched on the edge of a cliff, its ancient stone walls blending into the landscape as if it had always been part of the mountains. The wind howled through the valley below, and the silence of the place was almost palpable. As they approached the gates, a lone monk appeared, his face serene but stern. "You seek Shivoham," the monk said, his voice carrying an otherworldly calm. "But the path to knowledge is not given freely." Charlie and Julian exchanged a glance. This was it. The test Dorje had warned them about. "What must we do?" Charlie asked. The monk smiled, a faint, mysterious curve of the lips. "Only those who understand death can comprehend the knowledge within that book. Tonight, you will meditate in the Hall of the Departed. If your hearts are pure, the truth will reveal itself." As night fell, they were led into a vast, candle-lit chamber deep within the monastery. The air was thick with incense, and shadows danced on the walls as the flickering flames cast eerie reflections. They sat in silence, the cold stone beneath them, and began to meditate. Hours passed. Charlie felt his mind slipping into a trance, his consciousness expanding beyond his body. Strange visions filled his thoughts, flashes of light, swirling colors, and then darkness. A sense of weightlessness enveloped him, as if he was drifting between worlds. Suddenly, he was standing at the edge of a vast abyss, staring into the void beyond. A voice echoed in his mind, calm and steady. "This is the threshold. Cross it, and you will see what lies beyond." He hesitated, and in his hesitation knew that he wouldn't pass the necessary test.